If you were alive back then, what were you up to on December 31st, 1999? I remember being at my grandparents' for New Year's Eve with all the family. We were watching the ball drop and my uncle snuck downstairs to the basement. He hit the main disconnect on the electrical panel right at midnight as we went into the year 2000. Total darkness in the house. I'll never forget the screams and cries that ensued. It was hilarious. Probably the best prank I've ever seen in my lifetime. He got us all good. You could argue that's the prank of the century. If people reading this aren't familiar with the whole Y2K paranoia, they won't understand why that prank was so great. They pulled the breaker in the skating rink I was in right at midnight. Even as young teens, we were just like, really guys? Metallica did the same thing to the packed Pontiac Silverdome. The hush that fell over the crowd was crazy. Backing up the family business's computers just in case. Y2K was resolved, but we couldn't risk losing all the financials. I was a high school kid. Also a high school kid. My stepdad worked for AT&T and assured me that they had fixed it. He had worked on it. He was right. I was working in a pediatric ICU with 30 patients. We were so worried that our ventilators and oxygen systems would shut down, and the hospital backup generator would not kick on like it was supposed to. We had double the staff there that night at midnight and had many extra oxygen tanks and ventilators on standby just in case. Thankfully, nothing happened. I was at Disney World and I remember my friend saying it would be his last fart of the millennium. There were fireworks shaped like Mickey Mouse. I was at Disneyland. We had gone for New Year's Eve a few years, but 1999 was the only time they passed out fairy wands, glow sticks, and shut down all the rides a full 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after the countdown. I imagine they were a little concerned. Delivering pizza to I.C. Wiener at the cryogenic lab. I was born in the early 90s, so I'm one of those "you're not a real 90s kid" people, as designated by those born in the late 80s. It still breaks my brain that Futurama was 1999. I do not remember most of my childhood, but I vividly remember the first episode of Futurama, and watching almost every episode as it aired after that. For me, it would make more sense if it had come out in like 2008 when my brain was together enough to appreciate it, but nope. At like 7, I watched this pilot and immediately realized, oh shit, this series is really well written. I was working night shift at the hospital, and we thought the computers were all going to go out. We were running drills all week to be prepared for all the patients on ventilators, in case of no power. It was a big deal. Then nothing happened. Funny story, my aunt and uncle had a huge Y2K party. Big Italian family, their friends, cousins playing in the basement, the whole deal. We all stayed up to do the countdown, and once we said, 3, 2, 1, the power went out. I was in 8th grade, and the Y2K end of the world thing got real when the power didn't come back on automatically. When everyone got a little freaked out, it was a good 5 to 10 minutes. My cousin and uncle ran out laughing hysterically, and my uncle then turned the power back on. Hilarious. Greatest prank ever. I was 14. I remember it was actually special, as my parents who don't go out often actually made New Year's plans to celebrate. My sister and I each decided to bring in the new year by being the first people to do certain things. So at midnight I quickly did 10 jumping jacks, and I think she spun in a chair 10 times. It hasn't helped me yet, but I was somehow sure that one day I'd be walking down the street and get recognized as the person who did the first 10 jumping jacks this millennium. That's actually really cute. As you're presumably from the US though, and much of the rest of the world was way ahead of you, you probably weren't the first. I was blowing up 100 balloons to celebrate the millennium. 1,000 being too many, 100 still representing a new century too. The only problem was I put them all in my bedroom. I ended up sleeping with the light on because, in the inky darkness, it looked like I was on the set of Aliens. I tried to fill up my apartment with balloons one time. I did not do the math. Eventually, I filled up a closet and we would run toward it, someone would open the door, and then jump in. Making life goals and broke up with the loser I wasted too many years with. A new century was a whole new me. Never been better. Never looked back. Maybe watching Blue's Clues, I'd assume, not sure, honestly. I had some 5-gallon buckets in the bathtub and filled them with water just in case. Also bought a generator, but Y2K was an excuse, I needed one. Still have it, used it last winter when the power was out. I remember watching Peter Jennings on ABC News be on the air for 24 hours and helping usher in the new millennium from every time zone around the world. It was pretty cool. Hanging out with friends for a New Year's Eve party. I was out of my mind on MDMA at a Fish concert on an Indian reservation in the Everglades. Same, but I was also on a lot of LSD. Was there, 17, and wasn't supposed to leave Texas on juvenile probation. We were one of the first dozen or so cars in after having slept at the rest stop down the road, had a view of the stage from our tent. Acid and ketamine for me. What a night. Same. I was 18. It was such a rad experience. Before festivals were really a thing. Remember that map they sent out? It's wild to see so many other people who were there. I was the Y2K point person for my company. I was running inventory reports, changing dates and quantities on orders, then validating with HQ support that they could see the changes, and the changes were feeding downstream systems correctly. Similar story here. I had to validate online reports and such to ensure dates rolled over. Big telecom company, didn't really get to enjoy myself at all. I was at work at my fire station. We were fully staffed waiting for whatever would happen. At approximately 1 minute before midnight, we were dispatched to a car fire. We spent the new year extinguishing a small vehicle fire waiting for lights, communication, everything to quit. Nothing happened. I don't think we ran a call the rest of the shift. New Year's Eve was usually one of the busier nights, but not that night. DJ at a 36-lane bowling alley, playing Prince's Party Like It's 1999, and wondering if the power was going to go out at midnight. I was out with friends and met a girl who invited us back for a house party at her friend's house. Her friend would one day become my ex-wife. Did you know at first sight, I'm going to divorce this woman someday? I was 19 years old at the time and also met my future ex at New Year's 1999 party. I had quite literally just moved into a house near the university campus a couple of weeks prior. There were 4 of us and we shared some mutual friends, but didn't really know each other prior to moving in. We had a little New Year's party where we all invited our respective friends. However, I ended up spending the entire night chatting up one of my new female housemates, who I actually ended up dating for years and almost marrying. But alas, it was not to be. I still have fond memories of that night though, and fond memories of her. I hope she's doing well wherever she is. Just sitting around waiting for the lights to go out. One of my cousins was 100% convinced that Y2K was going to be every bit as disastrous as all the worst-case scenario predictions. He literally stocked up on canned food, water, and such. Despite this, it didn't stop him from hosting his annual New Year's Eve party, at which my other cousin snuck down to the basement just before midnight and, when the ball dropped, tripped all the circuit breakers. He is a legend in our family. I was sitting in a data center waiting for the world to end. We drank beer and got really loaded. Then the CEO of that Fortune 50 company walked in. He gave us a nod, asked for a beer, and I never heard another word about it. Yep. Thankfully, the exact date meant that all the businesses paid out the ass to make sure their systems would work in 2000. I'm sure that programmers got nice little nest eggs the last few years of the 90s because demand for their trade was high and, truthfully, badly needed. They pulled the breaker in the skating rink I was in right at midnight. Even as young teens, we were just like, really, guys? I was at a Fish concert on an Indian reservation in the Everglades with 100,000 or so of my closest friends. Fish played several sets between the 30th and 31st, but they came on stage a little before midnight on December 31st and stayed on stage playing until the sun came up. They had a porta potty on stage so the other 3 could keep playing if one had to go to the bathroom. You're the 3rd person I've seen on this thread that was there, LOL. Those were the days. They still bring it, but not shitter on the stage till dawn. Bring it! Had a good friend turn up drunk after she had a row with her boyfriend and profess her undying love for me, which was nice, but my wife didn't agree. Unfortunately, I couldn't drive her home, as I'd had a few drinks myself, so last seen disappearing back into the night to patch things up with said boyfriend. Last seen? Did she, go missing after that? Ooh, I need to know how that all ended up. Battling a terrible cold, but had tickets to a gala event where there was a girl I was really hoping to see. I went to the event but got cold and clammy within an hour. The girl wasn't there. I decided to leave. The next day I checked my email. It was the girl, saying she'd heard I left and she hoped I was feeling better. She then said she'd hoped we would have kissed at midnight. No, we didn't end up marrying, but we had a really good run and remain good friends today. When I read "but I had tickets to," I immediately thought you also were at the Fish concert in the Everglades with the others in this thread. Unconscious. I was in a motor vehicle accident 10 days prior and missed the entire Y2K apocalypse letdown. Woke up in a new century though, so that makes for a good story. Update. Yes, I am aware of the Gregorian calendar century mark. Thank you for educating the masses and killing my storytelling vibe. Your city had the opportunity to do the funniest prank. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.